Before there were kings or nations, before the world was filled with people, there was one man. The first human being, created by the hand of God himself. His name was Adam. His story, written in the book of Genesis, is the beginning of humanity, a story of creation, life, temptation, and mercy. I am your host, Dr. Aliin. Stay with us. In the beginning, the earth was new and empty. God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." And from the dust of the ground, God formed Adam. Then God breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living soul. In that moment, the first heartbeat of humanity began. Adam opened his eyes to a world full of beauty, rivers, mountains, trees, and the light of God's creation surrounding him. God placed Adam in a beautiful place called the Garden of Eden. It was a paradise filled with every kind of tree and fruit, rivers that flowed with life, and peace that filled the air. Adam was not created just to enjoy the garden. He was given a purpose, to care for it, to cultivate it, and to live in harmony with the will of God. God said to Adam, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will surely die." This was the first command given to humankind, a test of trust and obedience. But God saw that Adam was alone. Among all the animals and living beings, there was none like him. God said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." So God caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep, and while he slept, God took one of his ribs and formed a woman. When Adam awoke, he looked upon her and said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." Her name was Eve. Together they lived in peace, united as one, walking in the presence of God. For a time, Adam and Eve lived in complete happiness. There was no pain, no fear, and no shame. But in the garden, there was one who sought to deceive them, the serpent. The serpent came to Eve and whispered, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" Eve replied that they could eat from any tree except the one in the middle of the garden, for God had warned them they would die. The serpent said, "You will not surely die. God knows that when you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Eve looked at the fruit. It was beautiful and tempting. She took it and ate. Then she gave some to Adam, who was with her, and he also ate. In that instant, their eyes were opened, and they realized they were naked. Shame entered their hearts, and they sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. When they heard the sound of God walking in the garden, they hid among the trees. God called out, "Adam, where are you?" Adam replied, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." God asked, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from?" Adam blamed Eve, saying, "The woman you gave me, she gave me fruit from the tree, and I ate it." Eve said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." Then God spoke to them about the consequences of their actions. To the serpent, he said, "Because you have done this, you are cursed above all animals. You will crawl on your belly and eat dust all the days of your life." To Eve, God said, "I will greatly increase your pain in childbirth, and your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." To Adam, he said, "Because you listened to your wife and ate from the tree, cursed is the ground because of you. By the sweat of your brow, you will eat your food until you return to the dust from which you were taken." Even in his anger, God showed mercy. He made garments of skin for Adam and Eve to clothe them, showing that his love still remained. But they could no longer stay in the Garden of Eden. God sent them out to work the land and live upon the earth. He placed angels and a flaming sword at the entrance to guard the way to the tree of life. Adam and Eve began their new life outside the garden. They faced hardship, labor, and pain, but they also experienced the blessing of life. Eve gave birth to their sons, Cain and Abel, marking the beginning of human generations. Through them, the story of mankind continued. The story of Adam is not only about the first man and woman. It is about the relationship between God and all humanity. Adam's creation reminds us that we are made in the image of God, not by accident but with purpose. The commandment reminds us of free will, the power to choose right or wrong. The fall reminds us of temptation and its consequences. And yet, God's mercy reminds us that even after we sin, there is forgiveness and hope. Every human carries the same spirit that God breathed into Adam, a divine spark meant to guide us toward goodness, truth, and love. The story of Adam teaches us that no matter how far we fall, God's mercy always provides a path to redemption. It is not just a story of the first man, it is the story of all of us, our beginnings, our struggles, and our endless hope in the mercy of God. So when we think about Adam, we should not only see the first human being, but the reflection of ourselves, created with love, tested by temptation, and redeemed by grace. The story of Adam, written thousands of years ago, continues to remind us today that God's hand still shapes our destiny, and His forgiveness still waits for every soul willing to return.